Hey guys, welcome back to All Gen Gamers podcast. This is episode 109, and we are recording this on August 28th. I am one of your hosts, Metal Jesus of Metal Jesus Rocks, and I'm joined with one of my hosts, John Gamester81. John, how's it going?
Good, Jason. What's going on, man? How you been?
Not much. I'm doing well. However, this podcast is going to get it might get a little racy. And so,
oh boy.
Yeah. And so what I need to make sure, though, is that you are of the right age. So I'm going to ask you a trivia question.
Oh, gosh.
To make sure that you are of the right age. All right. You ready for this?
I'll try.
Okay. Hugh Hefner is usually photographed in A, the nude, B, a hot tub, C, his current lover's arms, D, pajamas.
Well, it's like, doesn't he wear like a...
Is that a trick question? I've seen him in all that.
He's usually in like a kind of like a robe, isn't he?
That's kind of pajamas.
All
right.
Yeah. There you go.
Ding, ding, ding. Oh, let me get the sound effects queued up.
And he usually has like two chicks on his side, right? Two blondes.
Yeah, that is a little bit of a trick question, although he's never in the nude.
That's true.
Okay. So, moving on to Mr. Jason Heine of the EMU Review. Jason, how's it going?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. And now I know I'm going to get trivia, so I'm really excited.
We have to make sure you are old enough for this podcast.
Can't wait.
So, what band recorded an album with a cover that looked like a pair of blue jeans, complete with a working zipper? Was that the Rolling Stones, Boy George, Olivia Newton-John, or Madonna? It was a vinyl record, and it literally had a working zipper on it.
Oh, it's the Stones.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, I remember that one. My dad had that one.
Awesome. Okay, and unfortunately tonight we are not joined by Pete Dory. He had a scheduling conflict, which is such a bummer because we have an amazing guest tonight, special guest. His name is Al Lowe of Sierra fame and Leisure Suit Larry. How's it going, Al?
Hi, guys.
Hey, Al. What's going on?
Hey, Al.
I'm excited to be here tonight. I can't believe I wrote those lines. That sounds like a long time ago. Like what's an album?
I know. Yeah. And for those people who don't know, the original first couple Leisure Suit Larry games had a trivia test in the very beginning of them to make sure that you were old enough to play those games.
Oh my God.
That didn't really work very well, though.
Well,
I mean, it was our attempt to do that, but everybody that I know got in anyway, so it didn't really make much. It didn't do much good.
Well, you know what, Al? I can't let you off the hook here. I'm going to have to ask you a trivia question too.
Yes.
Not the O.J. Simpson one.
No. You know, since you wrote all those, I had to come up with my own. So let's see how you do.
Oh, no.
All right. So, on the hit reality television show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
I would have no clue.
Okay. Kim.
All of the above.
Kim Kardashian is the pretty one, the one with the nice butt, the richest one, or who the hell cares?
D. That's what I said. D.
Ding, 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 ding. All right, you pass.
Nice.
If you want some real trivia, my daughter's grade school teacher was an aunt of the Kardashians. She had a teacher named Kardashian at her school in Fresno, and turned out that after we moved, we found out that she was related to the Kardashians, and so she actually has a slight connection, although it's damn slight.
It's like that 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever. Everyone
Exactly.
knows. Everyone knows someone. Do know someone. It's funny.
Yep.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, hey Al, this podcast kind of covers every generation of games, and the three of us definitely collect everything, but some of the listeners may or may not be as familiar with some of the early stuff that you've done. So do you mind just kind of going through, some of the highlights of your career, some of the games that you've created that people would know about?
Sure. Let's go. Let's talk.
So starting with, starting in the 80s, you basically created, I know your history. So starting in the 80s, how did you get started doing all this crazy game development?
Oh, it was simple. I went to college as a music major and got a degree in music education and started teaching high school band and orchestra and jazz band, and went on to become a school administrator, and thought that the way to my financial freedom would be for us to spend a month of our combined salaries buying an Apple II computer with 2 floppy disk drives and a 9-inch green screen monitor, that I would make our fame and fortune by selling copies of my music festival management software package. Didn't work out that way, but it did teach me how to program. I taught myself how to program, and through doing that, when our son was a little older, we were trying to teach him some reading, and he and I like to play computer games, and so I wrote some games for him to play that we then ended up selling commercially. Sierra found out about us. Ken Williams met me at a trade show and liked the games. In fact, he said, those games look just like Roberta's games, and which was, real high praise to me, because that was our favorite author. Our favorite games were Sierra games. And so I was like, yeah, well, that's not coincidence. I really like those games. So we ended up, he published the games for me. And 6 months later, I went to work for him full time. And 6 months after that, I got fired.
Fired?
Just like that, huh?
Well, there was a Friday morning when Sierra had 120 employees, and that afternoon they had 40 employees.
Wow.
It was called Black Friday for good reason. The company went through real financial trouble, but Ken made all the programmers and game designers an offer and said, if you'll go home and work on your own, I'll pay you with advances against future royalties and give you a part of the royalties stream. And if you are working for me full time, I have to show you on the books as an expense. But if you are an outside contractor and I pay you with if I pay you with advances against royalties, then you show up on the books as a prepaid asset. And suddenly you go from being an expense to an asset. And I said, well, how much are we talking about here? Well, we started rattling off figures, and he said, well, you could do this game. And I said, well, yeah, okay, how much for that? All right, well, how much for this other one? Yeah, well, don't you want this Commodore 64 version of that? Oh, yeah, I want that. What about the Atari? Yeah, we'll give you some for. So by the time we were done, I had added up all the advances, and it was like double the salary I'd been making. And so I kind of shook his hand, and I said, have I just been fired? And he said, yep. And I said, great, thanks.
Oh, my goodness.
That's like the best way of getting fired right there.
At home and actually, wrote those games and a whole lot more. But the funny thing was that out of the 25 guys that he made that same offer, I think there were like 3 or 4 of us that actually ended up producing, and the others all went home and, I don't know, smoked dope and firewood or whatever they do in Oakhurst, And so it didn't really work out very well, but it did end up being the start of his new company. And after that, the developers were. Many of them were on their own. We were a lot of outside contractors who worked just on the proceeds from our games.
Did you have to be exclusive to Sierra then? I mean, you could have developed games for other.
I didn't have to be, but he always had so many projects for me that I could never catch up. Which was, I'm sure, part of his plan, but it was always like, before I'd get this game done, he would be saying, well, we got to get this. Can you get started on this other one? And we got to get this other thing done. And so, we were cranking out games right and left there. So, no, theoretically, I was a, independent contractor. But the reality was I never had time to work for anybody else for the next 15 years.
Yeah, right. Wow.
Now, you didn't start making these with Larry, though, right? You started doing...
My first game was the cult classic Dragon's Keep. I'm laughing because I think it sold like 200 copies when we were selling it, and then Sierra probably sold maybe 20,000 copies. So I tell you what, if you got that in your collection, you've got a heck of a collection. I started out because I was a teacher. My background, and because I was writing games for my son, the games ended up being educational games, and so when we started, I continued to produce educational titles, and at somewhere along the line, I realized that the regular games were making a lot more money than the ed games, and so I kind of slipped over across the hallway. And I'm trying to remember what my first. I might have been King's Quest 3, maybe. Or one of those games in there I ended up being programmer on. And then I never really went back.
Now, what was there a risk switching over to like an adult style game in the 80s? I mean, what was the conversation like?
Well, if by adult you mean Larry, yes.
Yeah.
Make sure to follow us, the All Gen Gamers podcast, on Facebook and Twitter. Subscribe to us on YouTube and in iTunes. And don't forget about those iTunes ratings, guys. We appreciate those. And for all other info, links, and our forum, please visit www.allgengamers.com.